This is Scott with Starkey Family, fixing and rigging up, and today we're going to do something, unfortunately, a little bit interesting. Today is oil change day. So I'm going to walk you through changing the oil, changing the fuel filter, and greasing my semi. Okay, the tools that you're going to need and the equipment is, one, you're going to have to fill up your windshield washer fluid, and considering it's about winter time, try to get Rain-X. That stuff is a lot better for your windshield. You're going to need a couple oil filters. You're going to need starting fluid, and I use that to actually clean out the fuel reservoir for the filter. It just does a better job. Tire blocks, you're going to need some grease. You're going to need that so you can grease the vehicle. The needle nose pliers, that's going to be because we're going to have to change a tube and a grease gun. A punch to poke holes in the bottom of the oil filters to let them drain. And a strap wrench and a ratchet. And of course we'll have to have the hammer for the punch. 2 bottle jacks. At least 10 gallons of oil, however you want to buy them. I've got gallon jugs, I've got 2.5 gallon jugs. Gonna need a nice funnel. And don't forget, depending on what kind of fuel filter setup that yours actually takes, mine takes the paper. This is what the wrench looks like. Or if you have another type, then you're going to actually have a screw-on filter, most likely. And don't forget, you're going to have to fill up the fuel reservoir again, so stop off and get you a gallon of diesel fuel. Okay, first things are first. If you got 2 axles and you have a switch inside your truck where you can lock your divider, now's the time. Now, as for the wheel chocks, this is pretty simple. They just got up underneath the tires. And since my truck is on a little bit of an incline, then I'm only going to have to put them in the back. So that's the most important thing. You do not want the truck to move on you. I lied to you. You're also going to need a oil pan. This right here is to catch any oil that drips. And a couple buckets. And that's going to be what you drain the oil into. First thing is, that is your leaf spring. Position your jack so you're underneath the leaf spring. Reason being is, you don't want to put a jack in the middle of your axle because there's so much weight. Depending on your axle setup, you could actually bend it and cost yourself a lot of money. So we're going to start off. Hold on, this one's going to be a pain. I haven't used my jacks since the last oil change, so they've been down inside for a while. Okay, there's a little adjuster inside of it. And what you do is, you turn it. And what you're going to do is, this will give you more tolerance, so you can jack it up. And you won't have to jack it up as much. If you don't do this, then you could run out on your jack really quick. So basically, you're just going to run this up. You don't want to do it all the way, but you're just going to leave a small gap, and there's your starting point. Now, you can come over here to the other jack and do the same thing. Now you can buy different type of jacks. This is what I have. I bought it over Tractor Supply many years ago, and it's worked well. Okay, next thing. Jack the truck up. Now when you're doing this, you want to try to keep everything as even as you possibly can. now I'm going to move to the... It takes a few minutes, so I just went ahead and went through it. So, I've got the truck jacked up. You just want the tires to be off the ground, both sides a little bit, and there's two reasons for this. One, I need some ground clearance for the buckets I'm going to be draining oil into. And two, you want to relieve the pressure so you can grease your kingpins. Okay. Now that the tire is actually off the ground, what you're going to want to do is grab a hold of it, just pull it off to the side there a little bit. And that'll give you some room to where you have full buckets of oil. You can simply lift them up and take them out. Okay, for whatever reason, my other ratchet has decided that I didn't realize it, the arm is missing off of it, so I have no switch to switch it between on or off. So I'm using Old Faithful here. All you need is a 1/2 inch drive to loosen everything up. This is hard with one hand. Basically, all you're going to do is you want to slide the bucket up underneath, and you're going to undo the screw and let it fill up. Pretty simple, right? Let's try it with one hand here. Okay, for whatever reason, my ratchet decided to break, so I had to go in and get a different one. And I've got this broke free, so I'm going to take my fingers real quick and pull the plug out. Hopefully without dumping a bunch of oil while holding this camera. Okay, there's going to be a bunch of oil, so I'll have to be very quick with this. Okay, so it's going to fill this bucket up really quick. It's about halfway full right there. I don't know if you can see the level rising. Getting there. Guess that's black gold. It's getting there. Good. Okay, I gotta switch cans real quick, like. I'll make a mess. That's what happens when you make a video. You make a big mess. One hand. So, that's fine. It just means I got a little bit of a mess to clean up. But that's fine. I got a pan underneath and that caught most of it. Okay. While this is just barely got a little bit more oil to drain out, I'm going to go ahead and start on the oil filter. Oil filters are back in there. I've got to go off to the side to get it. So I'm going to grab a hold of the wheel, pull it on out. That way, I've got room to actually get back through there. Here. This is actually a little bit rough for me, so I'll start videoing you a minute after I get inside. Before I loosen up the oil filters, I gotta take this chisel. So I'm gonna have to have both hands, and I'm gonna take a hammer and poke 2 holes in it. Or poke a hole in each filter. There's 2 filters. And then let them drain down into this bucket. Otherwise, I'm gonna have a bunch of oil and make another mess. Okay, I've got this strap wrench on it. All I'm gonna do is just break the filter loose. And that's it. I'm not gonna take it off, but I'm gonna break it loose. And I'll explain after I get these filters off what I'm doing. Okay, there's one filter leaking out. And basically, that's how far in you go. So emptying out that filter will get rid of a big mess. You'll just simply drain till it's empty. And now I'm going to do the next one. To the bucket. So after those quit draining, then I will take the filters off. And as you see, they hold quite a bit of oil in there. Okay. Now that the oil pan is pretty much depleted while the oil filters are draining, that's what that sound is, I'm going to go ahead and put the plug in the oil pan now. I figure this might be a good opportunity to show how to use a grease gun and how to load a grease gun, because I also have to grease the truck. So first off, on these right here, you got an arm, and this will pull out. All you do is just pull it straight out. Now there's a little lock right here. When you pull the arm all the way out, which is spring loaded, there'll be a little groove, which I will show, and you just simply lock it into that shaft. Now, normally what I do is I will put this upside down, put it on the ground. This side here, I will hold it with my foot, and I will just simply grab it with my hand and pull it straight out and lock it. But since I only have a couple hands here, it's going to be a little bit difficult, so just bear with me here. Okay, there's my foot, my hand. Just pull up and lock. That wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. Take a rag, wipe the arm off. That way you don't get it all over you. Next step, this canister actually unscrews. So I'm going to have to unscrew that now. Okay. Basically the concept is this tube has a spring that's attached to that arm, and it shoves grease into there. It gives it constant pressure. So every time you use this pump, then it pumps grease out. This right here, all you do is just take a pair of nail nose pliers to the rim of the grease gun, to the little canister there. As you see, it's just cardboard. And you will just pull that out. You'll hold on to the shaft right there, and you just pull out the tube of grease. So it's just going to come out like this right here. You lay that down. Nothing really bad. Just a little bit of grease on the end of the pliers. Okay. Now you're just going to basically take the cap off. And here's what it looks like with the grease. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your finger and all the clean areas in there. You're just going to smear grease everywhere. Really simple. The reason being is there's a rubber plunger inside there, and it'll hang up if you don't do this. Very simple. It's a lot easier with two hands, but this is the way I gotta do it. So it's gonna look just like that. Okay, now keep in mind I am doing an oil change, so that's why my hands and everything are all dirty. Okay, the end where you've got the grease, and here's the end with the tab. You're simply going to put that in there. That's the end with the shaft. Shove that in, like so. When you get up here to the top, you're just going to spin this tube. I'm going to have to use two hands, but you're going to spin it really slow, and that'll help seat it into place with the plunger on it. And now it's just going right in, no problem. You'll take your hand, just press it the rest of the way. It might stick up a little bit, but that's fine. Now take the tab off simply. This is hard with one hand. Peel it off, back together now. Take a rag, make sure your threads are really clean. That's very important. So now, all I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this, put it in there, just turn it and tighten. That's it. You may have to, let me see it here. Hey, I'm getting it. Now I'm going to have to tighten it down with two hands. So give me just a second here. It's turning. Now I'm going to have to give it a nice snug tighten twist. That end, it's got the lock on there. You're just simply going to take it like this. Take your foot, drop it, you'll pull, you'll move it over in the middle, and then bring it back up. Now, you're just going to shove it down in there, and it'll rest. Very, very simple. This grease gun here, it's actually capped off, and that's the way it was from the factory. But some of these actually have a button on there. And basically all you're going to do is you'll press the trigger all the way in, and you'll release pressure with that button. Basically all it is doing is it's getting rid of air. You don't have to use it, but it's there. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. So basically now all I'm going to do is I'm going to prime it up. It might take a little bit. Okay, just keep pumping it, pumping it. There it goes. And before you know it, you got grease. So, and I don't know if you heard that, but that was the air coming out. Now, I want to add something else because a lot of people screw this up. The end of these turn. This one here has 4 little clamps down inside of it. And yes, I will be washing my hands later. But when you put these over top of a grease fitting, you turn these a little bit. Now you can pop them on, pop them off, but this is what locks them down on there. It's just a ball on that of the grease fitting. So if you have grease coming out, just give it a slight turn and it will lock it up a little bit tighter. Very simple to do. How to grease your kingpins. So I went ahead and wiped it off, but do you see that little grease fitting right back here on the top? Well, you're going to put grease in there, and you're going to keep greasing it until you see grease coming out of those joints right back here. Now I'm talking about that grease fitting, not this one. We'll get to that later. Okay, this is how you grease your kingpins. Make sure your truck is jacked up on the front, which I've already done because I'm in the middle of an oil change. That relieves all the pressure off of your pins. So if you have pressure on it, you may not get all the grease in there that you need at the places that you need them at. So let me get the grease gun. I've got it hooked onto the zerk fitting. So here I'm pumping it in. You just keep on pumping it. You hear that popping sound? It's coming through. Basically, you want to keep on shooting out grease until it comes out. See it coming out? That cleans the whole chamber out. So make sure you do it. And you've got another fitting on the bottom side, down here. Same thing. You repeat the same process. It's very simple. And that's what the ring of grease will look like after you grease it. It should come out all the way around, and that's good. That's what you want. The rest of the truck and show you where all the grease fittings are, because honestly, every truck is built differently. Some are sealed, some have grease fittings. Every truck is spec'd out different. My truck has over 40 grease fittings on it, between the front and back. So that would make for a very, very long, boring video. But here's another perfect ring. And back here, there's more grease coming out. So just make sure, and every time you do an oil change, you want to make sure you grease everything, of course. On your kingpins, that's one of the most important things. Between that and your transmission, make sure you actually grease it every week to 2 weeks. They are fully drained. So it's now to unscrew them. Okay. There's one. Yep. them started. He's got some air in there. So we'll let them drain for a minute. Apparently I didn't get enough air in there. Okay, things are slowing down, so I'm going to set my phone down so I can get these off. Hopefully you can see, but there's two housings. This is where the oil filters actually screw into. Now, you're going to make sure that you take a rag and wipe those off. Make sure that they're very clean. Now, I've got the oil in here. I've got the oil filters. Everything is new. Everything is clean. So I'm going to show you what I do with those now. And this is almost a must. Okay, manufacturers do make special funnels that the holes will actually line up on. It's like these little straws that come down. And that's supposed to provide better filtration when you're pouring brand new oil into the filter. I'm just going to add that, but I'm going to tell you why. It's new oil. So what you're going to want to do is, so you don't have a dry startup, is you want to take your oil, new oil that is, and just fill this oil filter full. Now I've got two filters on my truck, so I'm going to fill both of them up. And you see where the oil is right there. Just keep pouring a little bit in there, and it'll settle. And it'll go down inside. I'm just going to pour a little bit more in there. Now, this is very important. You're going to take your finger, and there's a rubber O-ring. If you do not put oil on this rubber O-ring with your finger, when it burns to the block and dries on there, and there you are with a chisel trying to remove this, just remember, I took my finger and rubbed a little bit of oil on the O-ring. And don't forget the threads. Okay, now I'm going to install this oil filter. I've got the oil filter screwed up on there. So you're going to want to tighten this about as tight as you can do with your hand. There's no wrenches or anything like that. But you don't want the oil filter on there so tight that you're not going to be able to remove it. But you don't want it to fall off either. So make sure it's pretty tight. Okay, this is the second oil filter. Basically, you're going to just do the same process. Make sure you get it all over in there. Okay, it's pretty well full. You can take your finger once again. Make sure you get this oil, this O-ring, sorry. Basically, if you're used to doing this on a car, pickup truck, whatever, basically the same method. Just everything's a lot bigger. Okay, I'm going to install this one now. Both filters are on and tight, so it's now time to get out from underneath it here. For the sake of the video, I just want to show you how big of a hole you have to make. Nothing major there. Okay, I've got the oil dumped, oil filters, new oil filters on. The oil pan plugs back in. I got the greasing done on the truck. And now, I haven't put the oil in yet, but it's starting to get a little bit dark on me. So before I do the oil, which will be pretty much the easiest, let's go ahead and move to the fuel filter. That way, where there's still enough light, I can show you what it looks like inside. Okay, this is pretty simple. This is how the wrench fits on. You're just going to turn the this cap. But as you see, my reservoir is up a little bit high, so I'm going to have to get a bucket to drain the fuel out of it. I wanted to show you beforehand, there is a little handle. This right here is a switch. You see it moving. that's your shutoff valve. That's how you change it. Now I'm going to put this bucket in here, and then reach in there, and that's how you let it drain. It's very simple. You can see the air bubbles and everything like that. Now, normally you'd take this cap off, but as you see, it's got a lot of the prongs broke off where it's an older cap. So I'm going to wait until I take this globe off, and then I'll take it off out here where it's a little bit easier. That's also where you fill the diesel fuel back into the reservoir tank, because this whole chamber, that's where all the settlement, all the diesel fuel, everything goes to. Okay, as you can see here, you're just going to take the wrench. I can't get a good turn on it because of the fender, the inner fender. So you're just going to keep turning this, and after you get so far, this right here will loosen up. Now I'm holding the camera right now, but normally you'll kind of hold down on this a little bit while you're turning, and that takes the pressure off this cap. And there's like a little O-ring that I'll show you. You don't want to mess that up. So it's unscrewed right now. So I want to show you this because it's going to take me a little while. I'm going to have to clean all this stuff off. There's the filter. It decided it wanted to come out with it. Okay, let's go in here with the filter. Okay, I'm going to explain this little setup a little bit. This is a paper filter, and this is what paper filters look like when they are ready to get changed out. Okay, so let's go and throw this thing away. Actually spring loaded, if you can see that down there. Look at all that nastiness. That's inside. Look at that. Yeah. So press this down a little bit. That takes that off. And I think I'm going to have to replace my O-ring because this is really nasty. Yeah, look at all that gross stuff here. Okay, back here at the reservoir tank, I just wanted to show you this. So now I'm going to turn that valve back on. You can see it pouring out now. Now, if you go to a truck stop, I've had TA stations do this to me. I've had pilots do this to me before in the past. This is a major no-no. They will pull the filter out and they won't drain the reservoir tank. Now, where does all the nasty stuff sit? In the bottom? Yeah, that's what I thought. So basically what happens is when you go to them, the reason why they don't do that is they don't want to have to add any diesel fuel to it, because then they have to walk out to the fuel island and pump some diesel fuel. Secondly, if you're a return customer, then they will have to change your fuel filter more often because all the water, all the dirt, all the filth, everything is still in the reservoir, and what happens is you're still getting fuel pumped into there and it's going to the filter. Okay. Since I've got a lot of cleanup to do, I'll be right back. Okay, after cleaning out the fuel reservoir and the globe and everything, now this is the new fuel filter. These are the new O-rings. This ring here is going to go right there in that groove, and then the other one is going to go on the cap just like that. So before you do anything, you want to make sure you put oil on the O-rings. This is really important. You want to make sure. Now beforehand I put some oil into the cap, that way it made it easier. But you want to make sure you get these O-rings saturated to where they're nice and shiny, because what's going to happen is when you put these together, when you're turning and twisting objects, if it stretches that seal, then the seal's bad. So never throw your bad one out until you know the new one works. So I'm going to install these real quick and pick up from there. I've got the O-ring installed. Now this right here is rubber. This is a seal also. So I'm going to put oil on that just as well. It's nice and shiny too. This is how the fuel filter is going to come back on, or go back on. See that shaft? Just wiggle it a little bit and it just sets on top of that shaft. And then I'm going to grab the globe and put it on top there. That spring will hold this down from being right inside of here. The globe is just going to set right there. And as you see, you're just going to press it down and that's it. So get the top on. You want to make sure you have the threads, everything really super clean. I was going to add also the threads inside this cap. Put some oil on them before you do this. Now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to use both hands. I'm going to hold this down while I turn this, but I can't hold my phone at the same time. So give me just a second. Yeah, I guess I can. I got my phone propped here. So basically this is all you're going to do. You're going to take one hand on the top, one with the wrench, and tighten it up until you can't wiggle it no more. And it's nice and tight. So that's nice and tight right now. I'm going to double check it. That's perfect right there. So we're done with that. Next we're going to do the cap. And basically all I'm doing there is I'm just going to put the O-ring on the cap and screw it here into the top. Okay, once again I just put oil on the O-ring. Slide it over the threads. Make sure nothing is twisted. Everything's free traveling. And then you just come over here to the top. And you're just going to screw it on. But before we do that, we have to fill this whole canister full of diesel fuel. Okay, I got the gas can, or the, not gas, don't use gas, the diesel can. So now all we're going to do is we're going to put diesel inside of here, which is always fun. We just pour it in here. Basically all we need is we need the bottom reservoir full on diesel fuel. That's it. So after I get this, then I will come right back. Okay. Basically all you're wanting is you're just wanting to fill it up so the reservoir is full. If you see it up here just a little bit over top the cap and filter, you're good to go. So now to put the cap on. And yes, I did put the oil ring on it. Okay, now here's where that special wrench comes in play. Again, the back part of it is the wrench for this. So it does get a little bit more difficult, but you just want to make sure it's not too tight, just maybe hand tight. And that pin, and yes, I did turn the valve on the bottom to shut it, by the way. But now to get the drain pan, I'll show you what that looks like. Ew. So I can't start it up yet because I still have to add the oil into the truck. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. Okay, so basically this handle here, you're going to turn this and take the cap off on here. And this is where the oil is going to actually go back into. After I get it out there, geez, that thing's in there. Okay, and basically all that is a washer crushing a rubber bushing. And it expands the bushing out, which is solid on the pipe. This tube here, that's where you check the oil, so you'll pull that out to check the oil at the end. Now my truck, I buy 10 gallons of oil. It normally takes between 9 and 9.5 gallons of oil. Okay, now for the oil. This is the gallon that I had opened for the oil filters. So that's why it's going a little bit quicker. Okay, these are the big jugs that we're going to sell. By the way, I've got my wife out here since it got dark, and she's actually holding the camera. One of the advantages of changing your oil yourself, on just buying the oil alone, if you go to a truck stop, you're going to be paying between $230 to maybe $300 for a basic oil change. That's oil and filters. The advantage is, if you go to Walmart, my wife was able to pick these up for how much again?
$12.47.
$12.47. So what that means is, in oil alone, she just spent a little over $110 altogether. And then the filters, you can normally pick them up. A good price, you'll pay under $20 for both of them. A bad price, you'll pay $20 a piece for them or more. And then you've got to figure in greasing. The last time I paid someone to grease my truck at a truck stop, and of course they didn't do a good job, they missed everything, it was about $30. A stick of grease is about $4, and then whatever your time is. The fuel filter, if you have to go somewhere, they may charge you $20 for one of these little paper filters. Where I buy them at, they average between $7 to $10 a piece. And they're simple to actually change out. And like I said earlier in the video, I have went and had truck stops actually do this before. Now you see why I'm doing it myself. If they're not going to drain the bottom of the reservoir, and then all that junk is getting sucked back up into the filter, what are they actually even doing? Absolutely nothing but taking your money. Okay, the only thing that's left now is I'm going to take the funnel out, put the plug in, and start the truck up. Okay, time to start it. This one right here. And if you're wondering about the buzzer in commercial vehicles like this, the the air pressure is down low, this is the air pressure, then you have a buzzer that goes off. It's just pretty much a warning to let you know that without air pressure, your brakes are useless. They can actually lock up on you. It can hurt you. And all I'm doing is right now, I've got the window down, and I'm just letting it idle up a little bit. That's pumping fuel in to the fuel reservoir as we speak. So it should be good. Fuel level rises up into it. You normally want to let the truck run for a couple minutes after changing the fuel filter. Within that time period, you'll notice any leaks. If the truck shuts off, then you know that you're getting air in there. So that's how you do that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the oil, make sure it doesn't need anything more in there. Okay, so basically all I'm doing now is you gotta pull the dipstick out first. You wipe it off. And yes, I like using white paper towels. Put it back in. All the way. Then you pull it out. And you see that little X'd up area right there? I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, it's hard to see because of the light. But right here is where the level falls. The maximum is right here. So what that means is I get to add just a little bit more oil in. I'll hold it. I was going to use my small funnel here. Now I don't have a fancy garage, put my semi in, so like a lot of normal people, I got to do everything in the driveway, which means I lay on cardboard. And it works out really good. Then after cardboard gets worn out, you throw it away and you get a new piece. If you're wondering about the dirt on the jugs, that's just because where they've been sitting outside. This time of year, it's hard to keep anything outside clean anyways, with the leaves and wind and everything. Okay. Check the oil again, and this time I'm going to wipe it off one more time. Now if you can see that, right here's where it's at, right there's the top. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. Oh, about did it. Okay. That should be it. I wipe the dipstick all the way off again. That was just a little governor. Okay. It's right almost to the very top there. So I'm good. You have to keep in mind my truck is setting at a little bit of an angle. So it's facing, the truck is actually facing uphill just a little bit. So that means more oil is going to run towards the back of the oil pan, which will actually show where the dipstick is that you're a little bit lower. So normally you want to check it on flat ground, but this particular truck here, considering I've had it for about 10 years, I think I know how to check my own oil. Now I was going to add that this truck is a 2007 model Freightliner Columbia, and it does have a 14-liter Detroit in it. My last truck was a 2000 model Century, and it had a 3406E Caterpillar in it. So two basically different engines. My fuel filter setup in it were screw-on canisters, and there were some other little changes, but overall I've been okay. Okay. Now for the windshield washer overflow tank. Yeah, get out of the way there. So basically, you're just going to take this, if I don't dump it everywhere, and pour it in. Take a full gallon to top it off. As you see there, a little bit of dribble. Right here's the level now. Okay. Now I did grease everything, but because it was getting dark, I kind of shortened the video a little bit. But I was going to let you know, this is a fifth wheel plate that is wet. Now I greased this actually about a week ago, and I was just going to let you know, this right here is good. As long as you're having residue of grease on the fifth wheel plate and it's kind of chunky and whatever, you don't need to add any. If you walk out or disassemble and your fifth wheel plate is fairly dry, then you need to add some grease to it. Okay, I apologize that it got dark on me on the entire job, but I did want to take a minute before I end this and explain something. Now, you saw how much oil that I had. Now, a lot of people will say, well, how do you get rid of that much oil? Well, this is actually how. Places like AutoZone, Advanced Auto, any parts store, a lot of garages, they will actually take the oil from you for free. There's actually a lot of other places like car repair shops, for example, or other stuff. They will actually take motor oil, diesel, things like that, and there are furnaces that are built to actually run on this used motor oil. Now, if one of these places say, well, we're going to charge you $5, $10, $20 to take your oil, basically what you're doing is you're giving them your oil for them to heat with, or they're going to take that oil and put it in a large tank, and then a truck will come and pump it and pay them. So they're making money on both ends. So if someone tries to charge you for taking motor oil, for example, leave. Don't deal with them, because most likely they're crooked. They're going to take money from you. they're going to take money from a pump truck, or they're going to take money from you and heat your shop with it. I know people do this all the time. Now, in saying that, if you get to lower states like the bottom of Florida, or I don't know, Texas or California, where it gets like really hot, well, they may not use it for heat. They could, but they may not use it as much. So that would be one place that may not take it, but the parts stores, they do. So I'm going to end on that note. This is Scott with Starkey Family, Fixing and Rigging Up. Thank you for watching the video, and please subscribe. Thank you.